Poo-Poo's Cat coming at you with a version of my home first aid kit. My actual home first aid kits are in 2 plastic totes, and I have other stuff around. But I got this quite a while ago from Costco and added some stuff to it. And as you can see, it's pretty full, and this is just in the door pantry by the front door, ready to grab if we need to run out the house, if somebody had an accident outside the house, or if we had to leave. And I'll go through the contents of this one. So the front pouch has 2 items in it. One is an EpiPen. We don't need them. None of our family need EpiPens, but it's nice to have one of those for anaphylaxis. And an eye wash rinse. What I would do is I'd boil up water and let it cool down and keep it in glass jars in sunlight, and then I'd have sterile water to use, and I would also pre-filter it as far as I could. Eye wash devices like this are fairly cheap, and if you ever get anything in your eye, you'd be very glad you had it. So the reason I bought this bag was because 1, it was cheap and I kind of liked the stuff in it, and 2, it has this open effect. Now everybody likes to laugh at Canadian Preppers bug out roll, but for medical devices and stuff like that, it's actually a nice idea to have things labelled and organised. And this was already pre-done for me, which was a major advantage because I'm not very well organised. So let's go through what I put into antiseptic towelettes and ointments and medical information and instruments. It's got some good stuff in it, some bad stuff in it. It's got a little first aid booklet, and it's also in French, in case you are being rescued by somebody from France. And for this sort of a thing, it's not a bad little device. I don't actually need it, but I wouldn't throw it out because you never know, somebody might be looking after me. Basic box standard tape you get in these kits. This is not very good. This is actually one of the better ones, but I'll be switching that out for actual proper transport tape. A lot of alcohol towelettes. Honestly, you really don't need this many, so I'm actually going to remove them as well and just leave this amount. And what I'm going to add into it is a couple of no stink skin prep. So this is actually very useful to actually put down and then put the bandage on top. It helps. It's a bit of sticky stuff. It'll help. I'm also going to put in one of these. I could put more in, but at the moment I'm just going to put one in. It's actually an alcohol swipe that is on a stick. So there are some uses for this I can think of if you have ear injuries and stuff like that. So I'm going to put a couple of sutures in. I know how to suture. I know what I'm doing with these. Good for kit repair, good for suturing. I'm also going to put in some sterile scissors just because. So what else was in this kit? A non-sterile syringe, which is a great idea, but I'm also going to put in some sterile saline so I can actually irrigate wounds and irrigate the eye that way if I need to. A tiniest little pair of tweezers I've ever seen, with some safety pins of course, but not bad for the size of it. Again, it's first aid as opposed to providing medical and grit down. I think that's an important distinction. Some afterbite, always useful to have, and a pair of shears, medical EMT shears. I also have some more of these, but that's what goes in that section. Also in that first compartment, I actually put in not many of these. I'm going to add some more in. These are actually thermometers. And you can use them on the forehead, under the arms or in the mouth, and actually being able to know somebody's temperature might be critical. Temperatures over 39 centigrade are critical, temperatures over 38 are serious, and temperatures over 38, time to grow up and drink some water. Now we're going to look at the fractures and sprains section, which is an important section, which is why it's big. But I just want to note something. I added decent clamps to the bag. And the first thing you notice is that there's a pair of sterile gloves there. I wouldn't be using these as sterile gloves, I'd be using these to protect myself from a casualty. As soon as I open the bag, I have these immediately available. You don't want to be rooting through containers trying to find gloves to protect yourself. Now I think I was rightly harsh on the Ultimate Survival First Aid Kit, and you'll see why. What's in this? First off, is a bit of fluffery. Always fun to have a Sol survival kit with emergency stuff in it, because first aid might go along with survival, right? They have a couple of the elastic roller bandages that are very low quality but would work. How long they'd work, taking them on, taking them off, I'm not altogether sure. So they gave me 2 of them, which I thought was smart of them. But I actually added in one of these, which is a much bigger one, for bigger joints, and it's much more hospital standard. They give you a little finger splint or a toe splint. These things are always cute to have. You can mold them and then wrap it around with gauze bandage and tape, and you've got fracture for your fingers. This is a C splint. They also put in this, or I put this in. Actually no, I put this in. This is from the Trillium Gift of Life. Please die and give your organs to somebody who's dying. And what this is, and I've done a video on this before, you have the size of the pupils so you can keep an accurate record if they're getting bigger, smaller or staying the same. And you look in that eye, and then you look in that eye, and then you look in this eye, then you look in this eye. Good for neurological testing, right? It's a good idea to have a light like this that has a weak but fine point. They gave me a couple of the lollipop sticks I was on about. These are absolutely awesome. You can shape them, cut them, and really immobilize a broken toe or finger. And it may sound daft, but this is a really nice thing to be able to have. You can improvise with twigs, but do you want it? Now, cold compressors. I'll leave them in. They have some use for sprains. I'll leave them in. That's it for the cold sprains, fractures and whatever. I wouldn't be that happy just having this kit for a spinal fracture, but for a small break in a foot or a small break in a hand, this would do adequately. This is always a section I'm really interested in, wound care. Burns. What's in this? I saw this in Costco. It is from a generic brand, but when I looked at it I suspected I'd seen it before, and I just confirmed that. This is a knockoff Adventure Medical, and I advise if you're going to buy a kit, buy Adventure Medical kits. I think they're really cool. But what's in this one? Well, in this one there's quite a bit of stuff. There's some butterfly dressings which we showed the other time. There is a quick clot. I didn't actually know it was in there. I'm quite pleased that's in there. A bunch of bandages they gave me, all different sizes, fairly good quality ones as well. Most of these kits have terrible quality bandages and you need to swap them out straight away. But I'm actually comfortable to keep these going. It's been about 4 or 5 years, maybe longer, and they're actually still in great condition. A bunch of sterile dressing materials, not just one. And this is about the best quality you're going to get outside of a hospital. These are, I would have confidence using these. One of the really nice things that they have in this pack, and I think it's an essential add-on, is iPads. So you can cover the eye if you've had to treat it and there's an issue with it. It's a very specific type of dressing. It's a good idea to have it. Now they do have some burn stuff, which I kind of found amusing. Blister and burn dressing, so a bandage for burns, little burns. I would say suck it up, but you never know. And a huge big tube of aloe vera gel, good for sunburn. Another good add-on is Q-tips. Good idea to have these. Okay, so now I have 3 cold packs in this pack. 1 or more of these are not going to go back in the pack if I have trouble fixing it after I've put my add-ons in that I'm doing today. They gave me these as well. This is why I kind of figured out it's Adventure Medical, right? So these are good types of dressings. They're not sterile, to cover superficial burns only. And I'll explain what I'm going to do for that in a minute. And I added in a few bits and pieces of my own, including material to actually remove dressing material that's stuck hard. Not a bad idea to have. Well pleased with the kit. I'm not surprised I didn't have to do much with it. I have revamped it a little bit like years ago, probably before I was prepping. But yeah, I'm an RN. I've worked for years in trauma, so I kind of knew what I needed. I'm actually going to add one of these in. It's just a rubber tourniquet. It's not great for compressing arteries, but as a stopgap while you're getting this one going is a useful idea. And yes, I'm going to put that in, a tourniquet. I'm also going to put in some alginate dressings. These are good for burns. These are sterile and they go on top of the burn and just help protect it. Not enough to treat a burns casualty as if you were a hospital, but certainly enough for first aid before the fall of society. Add in a few more of these plastic type dressings. I think these are always cool to have, and I'll show you them in the next video. If I have space, I'm actually going to put in an Israeli dressing. I'm not sure I'll have the space. Anyway, let's see if I can put this kit back together again. This is why it's always good to go through your kits. This was actually at the back at the top. I didn't realise this. This is kind of a nice little add-on. It has a disposable pair of gloves. Again, you'd have to root through the bag and open up a whole bunch of stuff before you can get to the gloves. So at that point you already have dirt or blood on your hands to treat a minor injury, and then you ruin a lot of the gear. So the nitrile gloves are nice to know they're in there, but I would use my emergency pack, but I know I've got more in here. A couple of procedure masks, yeah, okay. I would switch them out for N95, and I will do that. A couple of big pads. So I'm going to put 3 N95 in. If anybody ever gets mail from me and you get these are N95 masks. always a useful addition. And it also has a barrier for CPR. I'm not necessarily sure I would do CPR on anybody I would want to use a barrier on, but there you go. These masks are kind of cheapo, and I don't like them, so I'm going to get rid of them. And also in here is a couple of other items which I think are kind of cool. A few little bandages, and there's the nitrile gloves. Nice to have. So I hope you enjoyed that. This is my home first aid kit. It filled up quite nicely. I actually put more gauze in here and some transparent burns dressings. So the result of that is I have to put the EpiPen on the outside of the bag, which actually is probably where it should be in the first place. So if you have any questions about this video, please feel free to answer below. Remember, I'm not a doctor, I'm a nurse. And a grid down, make sure you have a good trauma nurse, because doctors are very specialised in the main. And have the best first aid kit you can afford, or you can afford to make. So have the best first aid kit you can afford. The biggest and the best is always going to be better than a cheaper one that's smaller, but money costs a lot. So when I saw this in Costco, I think I paid $29 Canadian for it, and it was quite some time ago. It was definitely good value. I could see what was in the kit because it came open. And yeah, like I say, I suspect this is actually a Venture Medical kit being repurposed and sold at Costco. I haven't seen them for a while. I haven't really looked because I have so much first aid stuff, it's embarrassing. But yeah, have a good quality kit. Make sure the gloves are accessible very quickly. Make sure any emergency medications you might need are accessible. I also put some Tylenol in this, and I'll show you in the other kit another med that I do recommend you get. Remember, grit down. Tomorrow will always be worse than today, so get prepped. And I'm fed up of people saying, medical's my weak point. It really shouldn't be. Health, diet, water, sanitation, basic health care, that's what created the modern civilization. The modern civilization dies, you better be able to understand and use stuff to stop dysentery. And also to treat basic stuff that otherwise will get infected and kill people. Not too much to ask now, is it? Doodles.